Hey, this is Elena with Black Sheep 303 Creative, and today I'm going to offer you some tips on ways to fix your alcohol marker coloring mistakes by making this card and showing you my many mistakes. So I'm stamping this image called Left Right by Stamplistic. Stamplistic is a small stamp company in Ohio. You may be familiar with them if you go to the Stamp and Scrapbook Expo shows in the US ever. They do some fun classes with their stamps and Swarovski crystals. Now I'm going to use Pinkfresh Studios Detail Black Hybrid ink, and I'm going to stamp it onto a piece of Concord and 9ths white cardstock, which is great for alcohol marker blending. Now these stamps are red rubber. They already have the cushion built into them, so I removed the mouse pad from my MISTI since I don't need that additional cushioning, which is already built into the stamps. My piece of paper is cut to 8.5 by 3 3/4. I knew I was going to do a slimline card for this because obviously it's perfect for that. And I wasn't sure if I was going to cut them out, which I do wind up doing. I do eventually cut them out with my scan and cut with a little border, but when I stamped them, I wasn't sure if I was just going to leave it on the white cardstock or what. So there you have the stamped image. Now I'm going to color this entire thing in with my Spectrum Noir alcohol markers. I'm not going to show you all of the original marker coloring. I'm just going to skip ahead to the place where it doesn't look so hot. So there you go. I'm not happy with this. The purple I think looks great, and the green's okay, but the pink is absolutely terrible. That yellow orange color is not great. The stars are just blending right into the background of the shoes, and so I am not happy with the majority of this. But I spent so much time on it, I don't want to have to like toss it and start over. Like, that's horrible. So I'm going to give you some choices here. First, tip number 1 is you can go to a darker shade of the existing color that you don't like. So this is kind of an orangey yellow, and so now I have gone to a much darker shade of orange marker here, and I'm going to just turn this whole thing like into an orange. So I've gone to a darker orange shade, and then I'm blending it with the original dark shade from the first coloring. And then I'm going to take the orange and go over the yellow outline around the stars. Now this would be changing the color to a darker analogous color. Now an analogous color is a color that is next to whatever the original color was on the color wheel. So like with yellow, that would be green or orange, but the color has to be darker. You cannot go lighter for obvious reasons. So going from yellow to orange, very easy. Now with this pink color, I'm going to go just a shade darker, basically. I like the pink, but it was just too like highlighter crazy light color. So I went to a much darker shade and for the shading, and then I'm blending it with another sort of more of a medium tone to get this to be more of a true magenta rather than that like crazy highlighter pink color. And that's bringing that front of the shoe in line with the value of the purple and making it look like it blends better. Now the green is just too light, so I went to more of a true green to kind of darken down the entire thing. I left some of the lightest shade for highlight. And then I'm trying to blend it out with the 2 darker shades I originally used with the markers, but that just makes it kind of flat. So then I decided I needed to go to a much darker shade of green for the shadows on the shoe, and then I'm going to blend that back with the more the lightest green I'm using, and then more of the medium green to just create a darker value for that color overall. Now it was a little too green at this point, so I wanted it a little more limey, so I did go take my yellow marker and highlight some of the areas that were lighter to turn it more of a lime green than that more true green. And I will color the upper part exactly the same. Now if you wanted to change this green to like a different color, Again, in terms of analogous colors, on one side of green is blue, and on the other side of green is yellow on the color wheel. Now, yellow you can't do because yellow would be lighter than green, and you won't. There's no way to make alcohol ink markers lighter. But you could theoretically go to a blue, like definitely like a teal blue would work because it has green in it. You could potentially even go to a navy, depending on the shade variations you have in the blues available to you. Now I'm going to just color in the little belt or the shoe buckle outline with my black micron pen. And then everything seems good except the blue is too light. So I went one shade darker with my blue markers and just basically color them in the same way. So I'm going to like one shade darker in each area and then blending with the next shade up, and then I do a third blend with the next shade up as well. The two lighter shades were what I used originally. Just going one shade darker helped bring the value down of the blue to make it more in keeping with the rest of the shoe now that everything has changed, has sort of shifted color. And then I love taking a white gel pen and going over areas where I have colored outside the lines. This happens to me a lot, and these work great for that. One tip though, you have to let the pen completely dry before going over it with a second coat, otherwise you will pull the white off. So here are my tips summed up. You can change a color to a darker shade of the same color by going down 1, 2, or 3 steps in your markers to just take it down darker. Obviously you cannot go lighter. You can change the color altogether to a darker analogous color, so a color that is next to the original color on the color wheel, like we did with yellow going to orange or green, because both of those are darker. Green cannot go to yellow because it's lighter, but it could go to blue on the other side because it is darker. And then my third tip is that you can change to a darker neutral. Now, I didn't really talk about this, but neutrals would be like brown, gray, black, that family. It would be tough to go to, say, brown from purple, though it would have to be a very, very dark brown. You could go to a dark gray and a black. You could probably go to brown from green. You know, it's just kind of a matter of messing around, but luckily you don't have to worry too much about the muddiness of the color if you're going to a neutral. And of course, white gel pen is my favorite tip, which is useful for mistakes that go outside the lines. Do not color large sections of a stamped image that are already alcohol ink colored with white gel pen and then color over it. You'll get a weird effect. It'll highlight the texture of the white gel pen. It just doesn't work. So only for mistakes outside the lines. All right, so now let's complete this card. Now these stamps are designed to work with Swarovski crystals. That's what Stamplistic generally does at the Scrapbook Expo classes. And so they have the holes or the circles on the stamped images designed to work with the crystals. Now I take a black thin micron pen and I color in the inside edges of the dots to make sure that there will be no white line showing between where I put the crystal and the stamped image if my crystal is a little bit too small. And I just suggest that generally because sometimes you won't always get it in the right place and you might have a little bit of a line and you don't want to see that weird white border. That would be too bad. So just color those in just a little bit with a black marker. You could color the whole thing in black if you want. Now I've got Swarovski crystals here. I've got a 4mm jet black, 3mm amethyst, 2.5mm aquamarine, and 2mm sunflower. And they are flat backed, authentic Swarovski crystals. Now you might be thinking, that seems expensive. Why would I want to put Swarovski crystals on my cards? Plus, it's a lot of work. Well, this would be probably for a special card, and honestly, they are not that expensive. Stamplistic sells them, and Fire Mountain Gems, which is an online jewelry supply store, that's where I got most of mine, also sells them, and they sell them in quantities. So like anywhere from like 6 to 150 in a pack, and depending on the size, and most of these are not very large, they run anywhere from, I don't know, like $2 to $5, maybe $6. It varies by the size and the color of the crystal you're getting, but like I only use 7 black and 5 of the colors for each of these. And I have a pack of like 50 of each of them. So I could make a bazillion of these cards, 10 of these cards. And that really didn't cost me that much money overall when you think about it per card. Now, you do want to use liquid adhesive. I am using my art glitter glue with my fine precision tip on it to add a very small dot of glue and then stick the crystal down on top of it. You could also use glossy accents. That's what Stamplistic normally recommends. That works very well too. Now, some alternatives to crystals if you don't want to use Swarovski crystals. You could fill the holes with some Nuvo drops, glitter drops, crystal drops. I would not use translucent because you'll see the border through the translucent drops. And then, of course, gems, adhesive gems would work too. Kind of like faux Swarovski crystals. But I love the actual genuine glitter and shine of the crystals. It makes it really special. It's not something I would do for a ton of cards, but for somebody very special, I like adding the crystals. I think it's just a really cool extra effect. And of course, because I can't stop myself, I had to add some clear tonic drops to the shoe buckles, and then I will let that dry, and there they are, completed. And as you can see, I did cut them out with my scan and cut. Now my card base is 9 inches wide by 3 3/4 high or long. Then this is a piece of passionate pink cardstock that is cut to 3 1/4 by 8 1/2. And then this is a piece of sweet mango cardstock that is cut to 3 by 8. These are all Gina K cardstocks. And as always, supplies are linked in the video description if you're trying to find out where you can get any of this. I stamped this sentiment from the Spooky Sentiment stamp set from Elizabeth Craft Designs and cut it out with the coordinating die set called Labels 1. Works with a couple of their stamp sets. And then I colored in the candy corn and the word candy on that greeting with markers that were same markers that I used on the shoes so that I knew the colors would coordinate well. And then for a couple of added touches, I have 2 small hearts that I punched out of some white glitter cardstock with that little hand punch there. One of my favorite little investments. It comes in a set with a star, and they are both a great size for like little added embellishments when you just need that something up in the corners or something. All right, let's assemble this. I'm using tape runner to put down and layer the cardstock onto the card base. Very straightforward and nothing complicated happening there. And then I'm going to use my same liquid adhesive that I used on the crystals to adhere my shoes onto the card front, since tape runner is a little tough with those crystals on the front of the shoes. And then I knew I wanted to put the greeting in between the shoes, so I'm spreading them apart on the card front. And then I'm going to use some foam squares on the back of the greeting to pop that up off of the background and not block any of the crystals on the shoes, which it doesn't really anyway, but it's still pretty cool. And then to finish off those 2 kind of blank corners, I am adding my little glitter hearts up in each corner, and that is the completed card. And there you see the glittery crystals on the front, and I was really happy with how it turned out. In the end, I really liked the coloring. It's very, very bright, but you know me, I like bright colors. And you can see that this is the first card where I fixed the mistakes, or shoe, and then this is the second shoe that I colored just the second way, and they look like they coordinate perfectly. So hopefully I was able to give you some tips on ways that you can fix any mistakes you make when you're coloring with alcohol ink markers. And as always, supplies are linked in the video description and over on my blog. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up, and I would like to hear from you and find out what is your favorite tip for fixing your alcohol marker coloring mistakes. Thank you so much. Have a great day.